leadership pipeline building remains challenging almost all the times. It's not only the experience or the domain knowledge or subject matter expertise from mid-level, senior, and CXO level. The expectation from a leader changes from industry to industry, sector to sector, and one organization to another within the same industry or the sector. When it comes to different functions like HR, finance, administration, the expectation is again completely different. Growing in these functions as a leader is definitely not an easy task, almost in all the industries. Today, we have a charismatic leader with us who shares knowledge so diligently while building a strong brand for herself. She is a certified PRISM brain mapping practitioner, certified NLP practitioner. She has also been a part of many prestigious forums as a guest speaker, a member of PSAA. She has many accolades. The list is endless. Let me share a few. HR 100 under 40, Top HR Mind India Award, Vika Luminary for Growth, LinkedIn Person of the Year 2020, CEO Recognition Award for the Best EOQ. Our guest today is Gauri Das, who is a Vice President and a Head HR in India Factoring and Finance Solutions Private Limited. Warm welcome, Gauri, to Nishta.
Thank you so much, Subha. Thank you so much for the lovely introduction. I feel so elated.
Awesome.
I always love having a conversation with you, and being in this forum is really a privilege. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Gauri. It's absolutely my pleasure. And Nishta, as you know, this is an initiative from SLN Brand Studio, from my entity, to demystify leadership. As I mentioned in the introduction, growing as VP or head of HR, that too at an young age, is quite a task. I'm sure it is not an easy journey. Can you please share your leadership journey so far?
Sure. So I think it's kind of not having an overnight success. So it has been a long drawn journey, and for me, what has worked very well that I started working at the basic level. So I have done attendance and leave management. I have also kept those records, and that is how I learned the nuances of this profession, and that's what helped me a lot. In terms of personal competencies that have helped really, I would say number one is taking initiative. So for me, it's like saying yes first and then thinking how would things would be managed. Second is execution, because you can come up with the brilliant ideas, but an idea is only as good as its execution. Right. So if you can deliver on time with brilliant thoughts, then only there will be some respect for you. Third is courage. So many a times it is said that HR professionals are more scared of their own job than putting forward things. But I have been blessed to work with senior leaders who have given me that kind of psychological safety. And it's my own trait also that I would bring forward because I am paid for it. I am not paid to be a yes man or yes woman. So I have to bring forward whatever my thought process is. And that's how I have earned respect for myself. And finally, continuous learning is what has brought me here, because like I completed my engineering in 2004, but I completed my psychology masters in 2019. So that was around 13 years after completing my graduation. I went for second post-graduation. Okay. So this constant learning, like you said, NLP certification, there's OD certification also. Recently, I did design thinking certification. Whatever it takes for me to take the step forward, I have put in those efforts. So this is how the journey has been.
Fantastic. This is a brilliant journey, I would say, Gauri. When you said, saying yes to whatever comes to your plate, right? That definitely needs some courage. saying yes is one thing and then executing it successfully is another great trait that you are having. Most of our audience, they fall under leadership category, right? So it could be young leaders or budding leaders who are looking at growing in their career in the leadership ladder. There are mid-management level leaders or the managers where they have a different goal in their mind, vision in their mind to become a senior suit or C-suite. Similarly, we have CXOs also who are watching our program. From your viewpoint, from your experience, which are the core capabilities you think any leader must have to survive and succeed in the times that going forward? Because we are totally in a new environment today. And as I mentioned earlier, the expectation is completely different from different industries and sectors. Yeah, I would like to understand your perspective towards this leadership.
A very pertinent question, and you rightly pointed that the competencies that we were looking at few years ago, and especially COVID also brought in a lot of changes.
Yes.
No matter what you are discussing today, it's impossible to not bring up COVID because of the impact it has made on our lives. So if I have to pick a few competencies that are really critical for leaders today, number one would be leader as a coach. Earlier, you would lead by authority. Now you have to lead by influence. So you would, earlier you would think that I am a leader and my role is only to guide people, appraise them, and tell them what is not done, get the organization's objective achieved. No more. Because now leaders don't have all the answers. And we have a Google teacher also. So everybody has the answers, right? So the second thing now that comes forward is vulnerability. Do you have the courage to go forward to your team and say that I don't know this, or I would love to hear your views on it, or I'm not aware about it today, but I'll think about it and come back? Because generally the level with leader should know. I mean, my boss should always know more than me, but that does not exist anymore. If I have, for example, if I have 5-6 people in my team and somebody is from IT, somebody is good at employer branding, I would have a lot of things to learn from them. But am I open to that? Am I showing that vulnerability so that the trust develops, so that they understand that I am a human being too, and the bonding comes out? So one is leadership as coach. Second is showing that vulnerability. And third is again continuous learning, because we have to deal with 4 generations. So learning in terms of growth mindset, not in terms of, I mean, you have to definitely learn new things every now and then, but that growth mindset is critical today. Because if as a leader you are not showing that growth mindset, your team also would not be having that. And resilience is what is required today. So if you are not connecting the two, there will be instances where your team will just go down because you yourself are not able to cope up with the situation. So I would say these 3 things would be critical today. And besides whatever we have already seen, which leader as a visionary, walking the talk. So these things were already there, but the new things which are coming up, I would count these 3.
Fantastic. It's a brilliant response again, Gauri, from your end. Yes, very well said on the coaching part, right? So I see that nowadays almost all the leaders, become certified coaches as well. Yeah. So, the couple of coaching forums that I'm part of, I see that industry leaders are coming up and then getting certified as a coach, which helps them to create a process when they are coaching their peers or the teams. That is a brilliant point, in fact. And then especially vulnerability is one area I would like to go a little deeper, Gauri. I had an opportunity to present my research paper in one of the leading colleges here, right? That's when I remember somebody mentioning about Philip Kotler, who is the marketing guru. When they were having a discussion with Philip Kotler, he wanted to learn digital marketing from somebody who is like completely nowhere near Philip Kotler. See, if you look at it, suddenly I remembered that when you mentioned vulnerability, that is one of the key reasons Philip Kotler is Philip Kotler.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
So, how to make the best use of that vulnerable situation. That is where the smartness lies, I would say, right? So, do you have any, inputs like how people should, leaders especially, should recognize that vulnerability and make the best use of it?
Yeah, I think it comes from within first
Hmm.
because you have to cut down on your ego,
Yes.
the ego that comes with the chair, and that's where leader by influence is should be the mantra.
Yeah.
So if you feel ashamed going to your team member and say that I want to learn something from you, you will be stagnated. Or then the other way is to come for, I mean, learn on your own and keep learning, but that's impossible because of the pace of change.
Hmm.
I mean, look at the top five skills or competencies that we were hiring for 3 years ago. It has totally changed. And what has come is your people management, your interpersonal skills, your resilience now, your trust building is what people are hiring leaders for because it's more soft skill than technical skill these days.
Very
And gone are the days when leaders were be okay even if they shout on people or even if they behave rudely with people and still it would be considered okay.
right.
Now there's social media, there are a lot of practices and organizations want to create such an atmosphere where everyone has psychological safety, everyone is respected, and that's where these things become very important. So one, definitely vulnerability would help you in learning and having that bond. And second, when you show it, say for example, wellness is an important part today. Do as a leader I mock someone if they say that my wife is not well and I need to take a days off? Or as a leader I go forward and I tell them that I have some problem? Or maybe as a woman I can say that if it is a wellness leave, I can say that I have cramps and I can't take calls today, I'm on leave. Do I have that kind of, it's courage, right? Some people think that vulnerability is weakness, but actually it's courage. So do I have that kind of courage? Because that will develop culture for my team. And if my team is so open with me, I will have that kind of friendship with them rather than having that employee employer relationship.
Right.
So I think these two areas, vulnerability definitely helps in our own development, in organizations development, and teams development first of all.
Lovely. As you said, we cannot avoid talking, about pandemic, right? So during this period,
Yes.
if you can share two major challenges where leaders, especially from the industry, right, they were struggling to manage. Two specific challenges.
Yeah, so this again comes from leader and manager. But number one was this empowerment. That was initial struggle.
Mhm.
So people were not very forthcoming in having their teams working remotely, continuously checking on them, kind of micromanaging their teams.
Okay.
However, I saw the transition also
Hmm.
that in few weeks time or months time when everybody was comfortable, people started giving that empowerment to their teams. They were not required for all the decisions because it's technology process overall the risk would be. So they empowered the team to take decisions. That was one of the beautiful thing about this particular crisis, that what came forward was kind of people are responsible and they are ready to take ownership. Second, they supported people in terms of, say, somebody is struggling with young kids.
Hmm.
Someone has young kids and they cannot operate in the regular hours, like
Hmm.
9 to 5, because their kids are also awake and they just chip away everything from laptop or they just drop something there. So people were allowed to work from, say, any time, right? You can start 11 p.m. and you can end 7 a.m. when your kids are sleeping. So
Hmm.
that kind of empowerment, definitely there was initial struggle, but there was support later on.
Okay.
And second was related to productivity.
Mhm.
Again, it's all about trust. Those leaders who were already having this bond, they did not struggle with this. But those who were having this trust issues with their team, they were also suspecting that people are not working, or yes, I mean those kind of thought processes. But finally, people accepted this fact that productivity increased rather than decreasing. So better you allow people to have that freedom and allow them to work at their own pace, and you will actually get better results. So this has been a very good learning platform for leaders during this crisis, and across the industry this is what I'm seeing.
Fantastic. So it's like more from process oriented or task oriented to people centric, right? Everything has become people centric, as you rightly mentioned. Empowerment is one thing, right? See, you as far as I'm concerned, I would say I cannot empower anybody. That should come from within, right? When the leaders realized that, okay, see, now I should let my teams empower themselves, then I think it opened up an arena where both the parties, they started realizing what is needed. And then yes, of course, I totally agree with you, because I remember very well initial days of pandemic. Even I was writing posts on LinkedIn saying that where is an end, because I know that all my friends, everybody was working 24/7, but none of the managers, none of the leaders were happy about what the team members were doing. I was getting, because I have my clientele from both the sides, right? So one group of people, they were saying, what, my leader, my manager, he doesn't even ask me how am I doing, right? So I know one of my client, he was ready to put his papers down, because when he said I'm having headache, the manager didn't even ask, okay, it's okay, you take some rest, we will do it later. He didn't even grasp what the employee was saying, the team member was saying. He was just he went on giving the task, right? That single moment of not showing or not receiving that sympathy or empathy kind of made him to take a drastic decision. Then I had to kind of get him into that coaching session. I told him, okay, it could be momentary, because
what goes on behind managers,
we don't know.
We don't know.
Exactly.
But you brought out a very important point, and that's what we call as EX, employee experience. So when we go to a restaurant and food is very good but service is not, we won't think about going there again. So any instance in employee's life which impacts them so badly would definitely result in negative employee experience, and it would lead to attrition.
Very right. So the other hand, leaders were I don't know what my teams are doing. So they are logged in 24/7, but I don't see any result. Right? It was I could see that slowly things were getting better. People started adapting data. Data-based tools they started adapting. Yeah, that's a beautiful journey as human beings, I would say.
A lot of learning.
Yeah, a lot of learning for each one of us. Yeah, fantastic, super. Yeah, and then coming to the younger generation, right? I'm sure you have been interacting with a lot of young minds also, the millennials and then the Z generation and all. So from the HR viewpoint, not only for hiring, right? For them to grow in the leadership growth path, right? What are all the core, capabilities, or what would be your advice to those young minds who wants to establish all their leadership, capabilities?
Yeah. So this is something which I didn't do for a very long time. Nobody advised me. But now there's a platform, so I will be definitely sharing what I learned from my experiences. So number one thing is what you know is important, but who you know is critical. So networking, like we say, network is your net worth. Within the organization, you must have sponsors, you must have mentors, because you never know who's going to take what decisions. So what you should do is participate in all the projects, additional projects also, so that you have some visibility, you have learning, and you continue to gain those competencies. And at the same time, you get your mentors, you get your sponsors. This is within the system one excellent way to achieve that success. I mean, in terms of whenever you are planning to take up that role, this would definitely help. And when you become a team lead, this comes out as an example that my manager or my leader is taking these initiatives.
Mm.
So they are not only doing their own thing, but they are also supporting overall organization.
Right.
Because today we expect every role to have some strategic angle.
Mm.
Even the mail boy who brings in checks, he is or she is expected to deliver it very early on Friday,
Right.
because we know if it is not done and checks are not submitted for next 2 days, the money will not come in.
Yeah.
So this strategic orientation should be even at lowest level.
Uh,
When you look at the overall organization, whatever level you are at, you will definitely have much more chances to succeed. So number one is this, that what you know is critical. I mean, important, who you know is critical. Second is business acumen.
Mm.
Irrespective of your role, you must know where does the money come from,
Mm.
how are you making money, where do you lose money, who
Mm.
are your customers,
Mm.
everything. So visiting customers wherever possible you must do, but you must at least connect with people who are on field, because they tell you the truth what's going on in market. You must connect with customer care people, because they will tell you what customer says about this particular thing. Google whatever is there. So business acumen becomes another thing, because if you come up with a solution and the solution does not match with what your business goals are, it is of no use. Nobody is going to give you a buy-in. But at the same time, if you bring up data, like you rightly pointed, data is what it speaks. As the saying goes, that in God we trust, rest all should bring data. So data is so important. And second, you should consider what impact it will have on business, because even a small decision will have a larger impact. So these two things I have seen have worked very well for me, for other people whom I am interacting with. I think these two would be my advices to younger professionals.
Brilliant, brilliant, absolutely brilliant, Gauri, because not that everybody would be able to articulate in the way that you are articulating, especially when we are addressing the younger generation, right? Because yeah, I very well agree with what you are saying. What you know is important, but who you know is critical. That's a beautifully articulated. Another complaint that I normally receive from the leaders is, when it comes to the younger generation, right? The fresher community, or, people with some 2 to 3 years of experience, they just come, do what they are supposed to do pertaining to that role, then go home, right? And then again, next day comes routine, right? They don't even know what is happening in the industry, what exactly is happening in the organization that they are working for. So towards the end of the term or during performance appraisal, they kind of wake up. You know what? I was like working like a dog, but I didn't get my promotion. I didn't get this hike. I didn't get that, right? The information that you shared now, the experience, and then the insights that you shared right now is completely critical. One is knowing the right people, having mentors, and then these sponsors. And second is business acumen. This is a beautiful, beautiful insight, Gauri. Thank you so much for that, because this is something I have been, reiterating in all my sessions. Yeah. Why?
Wow, that thoughts are aligned.
Yes, yes, exactly. Because organizational awareness, how important it is. Cross-functional, knowledge,
Yes.
right? And then cross-geographical, depending on the organization. Everything comes under business acumen, right? In fact, these are all a couple of modules that I have in my, career, training sessions and all. But that's very true, very true. Beautifully.
And I loved what you brought out on this appraisal front. So
Ah,
people would do whatever they are assigned, and then they think I did much more than. So if there is a rating of more than expectations, their expectation would be that they should be getting more than expectations, but delivery would be only whatever is required. Then you don't become more than expectation, right? And you can't expect a fast track growth in the organization. However, if you come forward, because your leader also, your manager also is having a lot of things on their plate. So if you come forward and they know you are the one who can deliver it and who can help them with all the responsibilities, help organization, you will definitely be looked upon, and you will be given that fast track growth also.
as you mentioned, we have 4 different generation now in the corporate sector as of now, right? So there are C-suite, especially in the established organizations, C-suite, and then the senior level executives, right? VP or a senior director, or manager, general manager. In that level, they all come from really older generation, I would say, right? And then in mid-level, they are in that who is handling all these mid-age crisis also,
Yeah.
right? And then we have people with say 5 to 10 years of experience. They are neither in that millennial category nor in that mature generation category, right? That is one. And then the fourth is the current freshers, or people with 2 to 3 years of experience. Now the senior and then the super senior, the CXOs, right? They are facing a huge challenge of managing the other generation.
Yes.
Because the definition of attitude has completely changed, right? See, when for me too, I joined TCS. When I started my career, I joined TCS IT organization. I didn't have to call anybody sir or madam, right? Whereas in certain industries, still it is a norm, right? Right from addressing senior people to the way we respond, through an email or a phone call, right? The attitude has become completely different. But we cannot say this is right or that is right, this is wrong or that is wrong, because of the way educational system has changed. And the way I was treating my teachers and the way my son is treating his teachers, it's more like friendly nature today. So the same friendly the behavior is what the current generation will showcase towards the senior leaders. That there are so many attitude differences where one generation looks at that specific attitude as wrong, or vice versa, right? So what would be your advice or the best practices that you would like to share for the senior leadership here to manage the younger generation?
Yeah, so again, very good question, because I think the root lies at home. The way you and I are bringing up our kids is totally different from how we were brought up.
Yes, yes.
Right? So, like you rightly pointed, it's about the relationship between teacher and student is also of a friend.
Yeah.
And I'm sure our kids definitely are our friends.
Yeah.
And they are our mentors also. My daughter, she has her own YouTube channel. She's 12.
Wow.
And she already has it. So I keep learning from her how she's editing and all of it. So when you bring out these elements in the relationship, that I'm not the boss, but both of us are equal, then definitely things would work very well. So here I think both generation have to work, and that's most important competency for today, which is adaptability. So when you are working, say for example, my role, I have to at times coach people. I would be talking to a CXO, and I would be talking about all that best practices and best of psychological information.
Right.
Next moment, I would be talking to a labor inspector. So this change of hat, this was required only within the role, but now it is required even when you are dealing with people. If you are dealing with someone who comes from that baby boomer generation, the way you would be treating them would be totally different. And that's where I always advise leaders to go for what matters most conversations. So say, for example, generally there are 3 drivers of motivation, right? So one would be money, another one would be power. And third one, for some people, it would be work-life balance, or some people it would be a kind of promotion or recognition. So these would be some of the drivers. Do you really understand particular member of your team, what they are driven by? Because this survey I have done multiple times, and the kind of data it throws, you would always think that people will take on money. Okay. But that doesn't happen. Many people would put money at third level. For them, recognition becomes important. If I know in my team what is the priority level for people, and again, if everybody is asking for money, then there is a problem in recruitment, because you cannot fulfill everybody's aspiration with money. So if you, in general cases, you will be having people who are having different requirements. Do you have those programs? You can bring out those programs with the help of your HR business partner, that somebody is looking for recognition, give that. Somebody is looking for a better role, they would be okay with a few percentage less increment or bonus, give them that. So I think customization is the need of the hour. We customize it at organization level. We come up with a bouquet of programs so that something appeals to people.
Right.
But within the team, it becomes even more important.
Okay.
If you know your people very well and you know what is their driver, you would be able to support them.
Okay.
And second, like we discussed in the beginning, and you brought out brilliant examples on coaching. So we have to support them, not judge them. We have to guide them, not tell them this is what you are required to do.
Right.
So be responsible, but at the same time, you have to take ownership, but you have to give them overall responsibility, and you have to allow them to come forward. Because like we discussed, there was no Google earlier. Now there is Google, and whatever you assign to anyone, they think I'll be able to do it to the best.
Yeah.
And another challenge is delegation. One must allow people to take up responsibility, and effective delegation is the key. So these would be three advices to people for managing this very well, because this I have seen works very well when you know your people, when you give them empowerment and coach them, and you delegate it very well.
Awesome, awesome, fantastic. And when I try to connect these three, Gauri, there is one thing that comes to my mind. It is to allow people to make mistakes.
Yes, I was just thinking about this failure. I think that's one of the struggle for leaders also, because there is fear of failure. This book, Good to Great. So when acquisition of 7-Up happens by Philip Morris, they just burn money. Okay. And when they try to find out postmortem, the postmortem was without blame. So the CEO says that I have spent so much money, and that's why the whole tuition also I would be getting from it. So taking the failure as a learning opportunity is what bring in that trust, that safety to people, and then they do their best. So you brought out brilliant point that should always be with them, and that's what effective delegation is, that ownership still remains with you, but you allow them to operate.
Very true. Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you so much, Gauri, for your time and all the golden nuggets that you shared with the team of Nishta Excellent Brand Studio and all our audience. On behalf of everyone, thank you so much. My sincere gratitude to you, Gauri. Look forward to more and more interaction in the coming days.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I love the kind of questions you brought up, because they were very thoughtful when it comes to leadership. And I hope that audience gets benefited by it, and we see some great leaders.
Yes, definitely, definitely. That is the intention of intention behind Nishta also, right? Yeah. So hopefully we will be definitely getting more feedback for our episode today. Once I get all the feedback, I'll definitely come back, and then we can discuss and then see what else we can do together.
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Intense learning, isn't it? I'm sure you all have a great takeaway from the session with Gauri. Do share with us what you have learned today. How are you going to build and execute your career growth strategy as a leader? Keep growing. Do get in touch with us if you need any support in growing as a leader in your organization. Thank you so much.